In advantages, you can see it encourages delegation. Managers must better delegate to handle larger number of subordinates and grant opportunities to subordinates to take on responsibility. So we are discussing about the advantage of a flat organization. Flat organization means, remember, it is having a wide span of control. That means under one manager, there may be many persons to report him. So that is the scenario. So it improves the kind of delegation. The reason is that manager delegates a large number of subordinates and they get opportunity to do the responsibility, to take on the responsibility. Secondly, in terms of agileness, it improves communication speed and quality. See, remember one thing, when the number of levels in the hierarchy is more, then in terms of communication, it may create some problem, isn't it? Means there are a lot of levels in the hierarchy. So from the top, if something is coming down, he will take some time, it will be a little bit edited in between, so it may not be properly communicated, right? So compared to that, in case of a flat organization, the communication is fast and quality is good. Quality means it does not get distorted. Reason is there is few communications in between because the number of levels are less. That's why it is a bit agile in terms of communication speed and quality. Reduces cost, more cost effective because of fewer levels, thus requiring fewer managers. So this is also another important thing for the organization, that if you are giving more levels or a hierarchy in your structure, then maybe in terms of the salary and perks, it will be more compared to the same persons in flat organization. Because more the levels means you have to designate some higher post for that. Maybe from CEO, it will come down. So you will have some deputy general manager, DGM or things like that. Compared to that, if it is a flat structure, so you have fewer managerial posts and more posts which may not be have that kind of higher salary and perks. So compared to a tall organization, flat organizations may lead to some kind of cost cutting or saving in terms of salary. So that is reduces cost because you have fewer number of top level management posts, fewer managers, or what you call as white collar jobs. Okay, the next one is it helps prevent the workforce from disengaging by focusing on empowerment, autonomy, and self-direction. Okay, so it prevents actually workforce from disengaging, right? The reason is that there are many people reporting to same person and there are many people are at the same level. So the chance of disengagement are less compared to again with a tall structure where there are very few people in a particular level. So that they may get disengaged compared to a flat organization. So these are some of the pros. And coming to some disadvantages. Higher managerial workload comes with high span of control. This is very obvious because as I said, a particular manager have to deal with many subordinates who are reporting to him because it is having a wide span of control. So the workload increases. The reason is that the manager has to take decisions because ultimately it is the decisions which the manager has to make. And that decision also accompanied with some kind of responsibility. And if that decision goes wrong, then maybe he is accountable or answerable to some superior. So that creates the stress, that creates the kind of mental stress and burden on the manager if the number of persons reporting to him is more. So this is one of the disadvantages. Role confusion more likely. Again, role confusion means suppose at the same level there are many people. So maybe when there are a lot of people are to do a task, then there may be some kind of role confusion. Everybody will assume that why I will do, the other person will do. So that kind of. So the responsibility or kind of accountability decreases if the size increases, right? So you will get to know about this when you come to the final semester. So people like to have a big project size, right? That is my experience. So the reason is that there will be some kind of distribution of the responsibility, and that makes it easy for you to handle. So same thing in case of flat organism, because there are many people at the same level, so there can be a lack of accountability, and that is the kind of role confusion. May cultivate distrust of management. Okay, maybe this is a byproduct, that if there are many people working under the same manager, so it may lead to some kind of distrust compared to a tall structure where very few people are in a particular level. So that maybe create some kind of more trust. Okay, so these are the pros and cons of flat organization. Now coming to the other extreme one, that is the tall organization, in which the span of control is narrow. There are very few people, and there are many levels in the organizational structure. So what are the advantages here? Again, you can see that first is regarding the communication. As I said, in case of communication, it is more rapid communication between small groups. So it is different than the previous communication we discussed. That communication was either from top to bottom or from bottom to top. So that communication takes time in case of tall structure. But in case of flat structure, it is quick. So that is agile. But at the same level, there are very few people. So it is advantage of tall organizational structure that more rapid communication between small teams, because there is a very small team in each and every level. So among them, among the team, the communication is better. But if we compare with the flat structure, the communication from top to down or from bottom to top, in that case, flat is better, because there are fewer number of levels. Groups are smaller and easier to control or manage. Of course, it is good for the manager, under which there are very few subordinates, and he can easily control them, manage them, take decisions regarding their problems and all that. So there is a greater degree of special. Okay, this is very interesting point for tall organization structure. Here what happens? There are fewer number of levels, and there are very few people in a particular level. So those few people, they tend to develop a kind of a specialization in that, right? So over a period of time, they become experts or specialists in that area, because they have to do that work, because there are very few people. Compared to a flat structure or a wide span of control, when there are many people are in the same level, it is very difficult to someone to become specialist, right? That division of labor kind of thing. So here, as there are few people in a particular level, so maybe during your experience, you will become specialized, right? So there is a greater degree in case of this tall structure, that people will become more specialized, right? More and better opportunity for employee promotion. Okay, so this is also interesting for the from the employee's perspective, that as there are many levels of hierarchy, so you are in a better position to get promoted, isn't it? Because there are various levels. Like there will be a junior manager, then maybe senior manager. I'm talking, or maybe or some typical public sector industry, or like sale, etc. So there are positions, as you can see, like junior manager, trainee manager, like just after BTech, like management training, engineering training, then maybe junior manager, then maybe senior manager, then maybe deputy general manager, things like that. There are many designations are there. So it is more likely that you will feel that you are promoted, right? Because there are many levels of hierarchy are there. Compared to a flat structure, there are very few levels, so the chances of promotion are less, because you have to continue with the same designation for a longer period of time, because there are very few levels are there. So this is one of the advantages from the employee's perspective, that there are more chances of or opportunity of promotion. At least you will feel elated that you have been promoted. Some disadvantage like okay, so this is the same communication I was talking earlier, that communication takes too long. This communication is from top to bottom or from bottom to top also. Both way communication happens. Some subordinate may also want to communicate something, some problem, maybe his own personal problem, to the top management, and it takes long time because it has to pass through many levels. Right? So communication can take too long, hampering decision making. Right? Even if it is a professional communication, then also it takes time for reach the right person. So it may delay the decision making because it's a very tall structure. So am I connected with you? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Right. So this is one of the disadvantages. This communication is different than the advantage communication we discussed. That is just among the persons in the same level. So in case of tall structure, that is better because there are fewer persons. Okay. Now coming to another term here, which is I have marked in red font. So this is a very interesting term, and you all of you should understand this term. And many industry people or in business circle, these terms are used. That is called silos. Right. Silos may develop and prevent cross-functional problem solving. So silos is a very bad and detrimental phenomena which happens in organizational structures, right? And organizational structure means in any organization this can happen. It is a silo. Silo is a kind of phenomena, kind of feature, which is really unwanted, right? Silos means the exact meaning of silo is that making yourself restricted to your function only and not cooperating with other functionalities. For example, finance, right? Suppose finance create a kind of silo among themselves, and they work as a unit. No, it is not a problem. They will work as just a finance unit, but they will not share the kind of thing. They will not cooperate with other functionalities in the organization. Right, there are other functionalities. Maybe there is functionality like research and development, maybe functionality like production, assembly, manufacturing, or maybe related to marketing, right? Maybe related to human resource. So there are many other functions in an organization, and if each of them work in kind of isolation, right, they didn't look into the interest of the others, they don't share the data, they don't share the vital information with other functions which may be useful for them, they just keep it to themselves. It happens, actually it happens, and it is really a detrimental to the whole organization. So in case of tall structure, it has been seen that there is more likelihood of these kind of silos that may happen because there are many levels are there, right? And on each level there are very few persons. So the information or the kind of cooperation, right, the kind of collaboration that happens in case of flat organization structure cannot be seen in case of this kind of tall structures. This is for the cross-functional problem solving. As I gave you some examples of different functions. So you need to solve some problems in terms like a cross-functional way, right? Suppose there is a problem with marketing department, let us say, for example, and they need some help. They need some help from manufacturing. Suppose they want to add some feature in the product. They got the idea from the market, the marketing people, that our product is not being accepted by the customers because it lacks in this feature, right? They used to conduct some various surveys and studies, and they found it, right? This is the main reason our product is not successful, right? Now, if it is silos kind of environment, the marketing department may not share that information with the design, with the product development, or with the manufacturing, right? They will keep that information to themselves because there is a silo, there is a kind of isolation among these functions. So it's not a cross-functional. So these are very big, disadvantage, I will say. It should not happen. And there are many other reasons apart from organizational structure. Organizational structure can be, it's not the only reason I can say. Organizational structure can be one of the factors which may lead to this kind of silos effect, right? Silos phenomena. All right. So I hope you got this term maybe for the first time, and I again advise you to remember this term because it will have many applications in your future career or maybe dealings. So, okay, the next disadvantage is employees may feel lost and powerless. All right, there are many levels are there. So maybe employees feel they are powerless. I'm not convinced. So forget it. Now coming to another term related with organizational structure. This is another term. There are some terminologies, as you can understand. We are discussing with organizational structure like span of control. We discussed like flat structure, tall structure, width of organizational structure, height of. So these are some terminologies which are used. The next one in this discussion is chain of command, right? Chain of command. Okay, so what is this chain of command? Chain of command, as you can understand from the word itself, it is something like the hierarchy which has been used to control your manpower at various levels. That is the chain of command, right? I can say it is just the reverse of the span of control, right? Span of control happens horizontally, means the horizontal lines in the organizational structure are span of control, whereas the vertical lines are the chain of command, right? That way you can remember it. Okay, span of control and chain of command. So there, one is horizontal, the former is horizontal, and the latter one is the vertical one. That is the chain of command. Okay, so in any organizational structure also, you will find there is a clear-cut chain of command, which starts from the top and goes down. So in an organizational structure, chain of command refers to a company's hierarchy of reporting relationships, right? Reporting relationships. Reporting means a subordinate supposed to report to his immediate boss or immediate superior, right? That is the reporting. So from the bottom to the top of the organization, who must answer to whom, right? So that is reporting. The chain of command not only establishes accountability, it lays out a company's lines of authority and decision-making power. Again, another term also related with this, that is called lines of authority, right? These lines of authority and the chain of command are almost synonyms, right? So there is lines of authority. Again, the vertical line I'm referring to, right? So lines of authority means who is answerable to whom and who is going to report to whom. So that is decided by the lines of authority. It is just the reverse of, opposite of span of control. It is vertical now. Okay, so a funny cartoon you can see here. Okay, so there is a worker and there is a man who manages the worker. So he's the immediate boss. Then there is the man who manages the manager who manages the worker, right? The next manager. So likewise, this is the chain of command, right? So they are answering. Okay. So maybe this cartoon is having some gender biasness. Forget it. It can be other way also. Okay. So again, there are two more terms which are also used in the context of organizational structure, right? That is responsibility and authority. So again, these two terms also you should remember. See, each and every position as you go up in the ladder, right, enjoys some kind of authority, and this authority also brings certain responsibility with it, right? So as you go up in this ladder, the authority as well as responsibility goes on increasing, right? So the person who is at the top of this ladder or this hierarchy or this organizational structure, so he is having the maximum authority as well as the maximum responsibility also. So as you come down, both decreases. That's a very simple meaning of responsibility and authority. The definition also maybe You can see here. Okay, there is no definition exactly. Each employee on the chain of command is responsible for a particular area of the business. For example, operations supervisors or managers must ensure that workers complete production tasks and activities, while upper management employees establish the high level direction the company takes. Okay, so everybody knows this is nothing new. An operations director may develop a plan to reduce lead time in production by 2 days, but supervisors directing the activities of production workers execute the high-level plan. When a worker does not follow the established chain of command, he undermines the authority of his direct supervisor. So the second paragraph, maybe we can discuss. See, this responsibility and authority flows top to the down, right? And as I said, there is a clear-cut chain of command, right? That is a line of authority. So if you are working for some company, right, as an employee, you must be placed somewhere in this organizational structure. You have to understand your position, where you are standing exactly, whenever you will start a new job. So you will get to know, maybe exactly nobody will tell you, but you will get to know that where exactly you are standing, right, in that chain of command or line of authority. Who is your immediate boss to whom you have to report, and who are the person who are working under you and your subordinates, right? So whenever something from the top management is decided, maybe by the CMD or the CEO or some other top management person has decided some policy, right? And that policy will flow from top to the down as a kind of instruction or command or some order, and at each stage that order is executed accordingly, right? For example, the CEO gave some order in some meeting to the DGM, let us say, who is below him, or GM, who is below him, right? Now the GM will decide that how to execute it. So he will instruct their subordinates, some deputy GM, that we have to do like this. From this date onwards, we have to start that assembly line. Let us say, for example, right? Because we need to ramp up our production. So we'll start that assembly line from this date. So that has to be executed. So DGM will instruct that to the general manager, then maybe the GM will discuss with the senior managers, then that will be transferred, that will be communicated to the lower levels of like sub-floor manager or supervisors, that from this date, this assembly line has to be started. So to start the assembly line, you need to do certain things, right? You have to check the various things, whether they are in running condition or not. You may have to correct certain things. So that will be executed on the ground by the workers or the operators. So this communication flows from the top to the bottom. Somewhere in between, if somebody is not following it, you can understand. For example, the senior manager got the instruction, but he kept it to himself, right? He didn't communicate to the sub-floor managers, right? So there will be some problem. There will be some problem. And later on, when it will be expedited by the top management, why it is not started, then he will be caught. He will be caught. So this way, the line of authority or the chain of command tries to control the whole organization, and it works smoothly, right? Okay. So this way, the responsibility and authority are attached or associated with each and every individual of the organization. Even those who are at the lower rung of this structure, they also have some responsibility, right? maybe some worker, they are giving some task to clean the machine, to clean the assembly stations, because assembly will be started within few days. If they are not cleaning, they will be asked why you have not cleaned it. So responsibility is always there. So after all, you are an employee and you are paid for that. Okay. Again, related to organizational structure, there are two other terms which also we must understand and discuss here. That is mechanistic structure and organic structure. In the organizational structure, there are again two more broad classifications. Mechanistic structure is basically some structure which is very formal. I already discussed maybe some time back that what is a very formal organization and what is very informal organization. Formal or informal organization, the organizational structure are very rigid in the sense there is a set of rules and guidelines. You cannot violate it. You cannot surpass your immediate superior to communicate something. So that will be not seen rightly in case of very formal organizations. But in informal organization, or which is very, it is called the organic structure also. There it is very free and you can communicate laterally, vertically. So it is more flexible in that term. So this is also called mechanistic versus organic. So mechanistic structure is the most formal and the strictest kind of structure, just like military structure or maybe bureaucratic and government organizations. Right? Nobody will hear you until and unless you are through proper channel. So it's a very strict and very formal structure with a clear distinction in the hierarchy and roles. Hence, these structures are vertically oriented. The hierarchy of the authority is well defined, right? They are very, very tight-lipped. They will do exactly what they are meant to do. Means man will become a machine. Decision making rests in the hands of the senior management. All right. As a lot of bureaucracy is involved in these structures, the leaders find it difficult to deal with competition. All right. Also, innovation oftentimes is hampered due to red tapeism. Employees work separately and are specialists of a task. So mechanistic structure, as you can understand, mechanistic means we call something mechanistic means which are very rigid in structure. So that is same thing in case of an organizational structure. It is rigid in the sense that is very less scope of going out of the way and doing something. Maybe because of some human reasons also, you cannot go out of the way and help someone. So that is very mechanistic kind of thing. So as I gave the typical example of military organizations and government bureaucratic departments or offices are very mechanistic, right? And the disadvantage is also there. There will be a lot of red tapeism, as you call it, red tapeism. Why it is red tapeism? Because can anyone tell me why it is called red tapeism? From where this term came, red tapeism? Anyone? Have you heard of this term, red tapeism? And what is the origin of this term? Why it is called red tapeism? No idea. Okay, usually this is called red tapeism because the reason is that usually in the earlier times, all the government files, right, the state files used to be of red color, maybe from British era. So because of that color of the file, they used to handle the papers. So the term red tapeism come in. Okay. So we use that as a synonym for some kind of bureaucratic delays or struggles to do something done. Okay, so that is bureaucratic kind of symbolism for red tapeism. So the disadvantage of this mechanistic structure is that there will be a lot of red tapeism, and red tapeism means delays in decision making, right? It will be delayed because of the pending files at different tables, because there are it has to pass through the regular process they have set. So they will not go out of the way to help it. It will take its time. That's why it works. But the present day organizations, which are like the typical examples of startups and other organizations which are using structures which are very flexible, very organic, they believe in innovation, they believe in performance. So they hardly bother about these junior, senior, and everything. They all depend on their performance. So if you perform, you will survive. If you are not performing, you will not survive, or whatever your designation may be. So that way now the organizations work. Even the IT companies, they are far away from this mechanistic structure. It is completely performance based, as you know. So that way it works. So there is no red tapeism. You can call your senior by his first name, that way it works. But it is not applicable in government organizations or military organizations. You have to give respect. You have to stand up when senior comes. Okay, compared to this, the organic structure is the exact opposite of mechanistic organizational structure. In an organization following the organic structure, the authority is delegated and is decentralized, right? First one is centralized, the decision making and the authority is centralized. Centralized means only the top management can take decisions. The lower one have to take orders only. For each and everything, they have to ask the top management or the superior. They are not free to take any decisions. Even not verbally, they have to take the written orders, then they will do something. Until and unless the written order is coming, they cannot start firing. That kind of. So decentralized means the power, the authority, the responsibility is decentralized, right? Maybe at the lower level or lower rung of this structure, you have some authority, you have some responsibility, and you can take decisions also, most importantly. You can take decisions. So that is the advantage, beauty of this structure. Hence, communication takes place laterally. Lateral means horizontally. There is a lot of flexibility in this type of an organization. Okay, employees generally work together and coordinate different tasks. Right? They generally work together. Right? There is a kind of cooperation and collaboration among the employees. They don't feel any kind of senior junior feeling. So they coordinate in different tasks. Right? They are highly flexible to adapt to the changes in the external business environment. So they work in a team because they know if anything better happens to the company, then it is being shared with them, maybe in terms of bonus or some kind of extra incentive that happens in IT companies. So they work together, having a better culture of unity to make the company successful, to get better projects, to successfully deliver the projects. There is no kind of senior junior feeling like the government organizations. So that is organic. Okay, now organizational structures. I'm going to some exact names of the organizational structures which we will discuss. Right. There are various types of organizational structures that we will discuss, like functional organization, product organization, matrix, modified matrix, and pure project organization. So these are some of the organizational structures which we'll discuss. So I think from next class, we'll start discussing the exact organizational structures, their types and their features also, right? Okay, so I think I should stop here today. Do you have anything to ask? I have returned all of your quiz marks. I hope you get to see it.